So take a moment to explain, like, what's healthy emotional processing versus what's, there's different words for it, just being in a reaction or being in a, we used to call it indulging. Okay. Um, so let's say that my dog dies. That's sad. Natural to feel sad, natural to feel grief, assuming I love the dog. Okay. Then here is this, what exists is this emotional, energetic connection between me that I've poured out to this animal, an emotion that I've put into this channel with this animal is alive. And now the dog passes, and now there's a loss. There's an energetic tearing apart emotionally. Okay. And this applies to whether, someone in our life, a friend is mad at us, a parent passes away, a child moves out. It could be many kinds of this sadness and loss. Now, that's normal and natural. Now, our mind wants to fix it. Our mind, in spite of what we want to believe about the mind, is not there to make us happy. Our mind is there working very hard to try and protect us from pain, and it assumes that is what will make us happy. But it's more an anticipatory protection mechanism instead of an intrinsic, this is joyful approach. See, it's cataloged all in our life. These are the things that have made us unhappy. This is what's hurt. This is what's made us sad. This is what's made us angry. We don't want those things. We have to prevent feeling those things. We have to get rid of those things. And so it's in this pushing away process. I don't like this person. I don't want to see that person. I react badly to that person. I don't want to do that. And so it's busy keeping things at bay, among other things. One of the things it tries to keep at bay is our feelings. This is part of the mind we call the denial system. It's like, here's a sadness that I feel about losing my dog. And the mind jumps in, says, don't want to feel that sadness, hide that down inside. But then maybe it gives us something distracting to do. We're shopping, we're eating, we become busier at work, we focus on our work. Do this often enough. Oh, I felt bad getting a bad grade. I'm going to work harder, get better grades. And now we're a studyaholic, a know-it-all, an academic, a workaholic. Okay. This is what the mind is doing, protecting us from feeling sadness over years and years. Now, I lose my dog. I don't want to think about it. I'm doing all these things to stay busy and distract myself. But energetically, there is this emotional tear in my emotional body called a wound, as if some part of me had been kind of opened up, and now it's infected with this sadness. And I've covered it over, so I don't want to feel it, but it's tender when I think about the dog. The way that that wound, like a physical wound, gets healed that's infected, you have to open it up. You open the wound, which is the opposite of what the mind wants to do. It's like, oh, and you open it by placing attention there and going, this is what I feel. And this is part of the acceptance exercise, the self-mastery course. Like, this is here. It is what it is. And we're present with, provided we're an observer, a neutral observer perspective, this emotion, and it can take its natural course of healing. There's things we can do to help facilitate it with breath work. But fundamentally, the breath work is a way to consciously be present while we feel things. And we feel them with a sense of presence and compassion for ourselves or someone else. And that might mean, in the case of my dog, bawling my eyes out, curled up on the floor in the grief and the loss. That's the depth of the feeling. And like tears washing out the wound. This is the truth of what I feel. Because what cleans the wound is the truth, honesty, presence. And then a kind of acceptance. Okay, this is what it is. This is what happened. And whether it's in the presence of that deep emotion, or at least partially in that presence, somewhat of a love, after that pouring out of emotion, there's more love. There's I'm still here, I'm okay. Self-acceptance, which is kind of love. And so what cleans the wound, kind of sterilizes the wound, is bringing that love to someone that's hurting or yourself that's hurting, and say, yes, I'm hurting and I love myself. Truth, love, acceptance. In a case of another person hurting us, forgiveness. Forgiveness is the letting go of the story. It's a little deeper in the self-mastery course in the book. You're dropping the story. But it's a very much feeling process. And now your emotional body is allowed to, with that tear and the infection of the emotion cleaned out, allowed to heal. And you feel whole again. Then you can think about your dog and say, yeah, I really love that dog. And you are aware of the love you have for the dog without the grief and the sadness. Because the grief and the sadness is processed, you're left with the truth. The truth is, I love that dog. The sadness was a temporary experience of loss. That you processed. What interferes with the processing of that emotion, when we end up being stuck in emotion, is we stay in denial. Oh, I feel really sad about my dog, but I'm not going to feel that. I'm going to get busy. And so we touch the wound, we open it up, we feel the pain in it, like somebody comes and touches a wound. We feel the sadness of the pain, but it doesn't get cleaned. We think about it, it hurts, it's sad, we cry, but not long enough and fully enough to be cleaned. So we touch upon it, but aren't really truthful and honest with how much emotion is there. We touch upon it because, but that's really uncomfortable and I don't want to feel that. I'm going to ignore it and go on about my day and get busy with something that will distract me. So always touching upon it, thinking about it, reactivating it. We could go on years and years with the same sadness about losing our dog or whatever the situation is, without ever processing it. We end up feeling it 1,000 times over thousands and thousands of days instead of once fully. Okay. And so it actually hurts us more to try to not feel things or to try to fix it and push it away or not want to feel it. We end up feeling it in lots of little ways, many, many times, not little ways, but could be painful ways, thousands of times, in a way that that sadness feels much worse than it is if we felt it once fully. The challenge is to be comfortable enough to feel the emotion without believing the story that goes with the emotion. Because here's the other way we get stuck in a process that doesn't heal and leaves us stuck looping over and over in the same emotional wound, the same emotional reaction. We feel the emotion, but we believe the story. And the story might be, oh, that's so sad, I lost my dog, or me. Oh, here's all the things that I used to do that I don't get to do with my dog anymore. And I think about, gosh, it would be so nice if I could do this with my dog these days. Oh, but I can't. That's sad. And so now we tell ourselves a story of the things we'd like to do with our dog, but don't get to do anymore. And like in our mind, we're dreaming a sad story of loss or missing out on things that we won't be able to do in the future. And we feel sadness about these things that won't happen in the future that are all imaginary, that we're dreaming it and generating sadness. We replay the sadness of losing the dog. We redream it and we redream it, which means we're creating more sadness each time we dream a story of, oh, this is so sad for me. And so we're generating sadness by the way our mind dreams the story of the loss of our dog. And in this case, we're not cleaning the wound by feeling the sadness. We're dreaming stories, creating more sadness. Dreaming stories about the loss of our dog, creating more sadness without feeling fully and being present with just the emotion that's there. So the challenge, like I said, is to be present with the emotion that's there without believing these stories. And that means not believing means you have to have control over your attention and your point of view. So that when the story comes, you go, oh, that's my mind telling a story. That's a character, my mind telling a story. Don't need to believe it. But here's the authentic emotion. I'm going to be present with it. Yes, my mind's telling a story, but I'll just watch that movie and not believe it. So this is juggling a couple things in your mind: the story, skepticism, your perspective, while being present with emotion. So these are each skills in the self-mastery process that I invite you to learn one at a time instead of trying to do 4 things at once. Right? Like anything that's multiple aspects to it. Swimming, you break it down into component parts. Playing a musical instrument or dancing, you break it down in component parts. So being present with your emotion and processing emotion, same thing.